Hello and welcome to the North American Open, day two. Um, this was a even more intense day than the first day. I played, first game was just about exactly 3 hours, and second game was just a little bit over 3 hours, which for someone like me who is not used to playing classical games was quite a an undertaking. Um, But yeah, I felt I played quite well. There were definitely things that I missed, but overall, I felt I played about as well as I could have hoped to. Um, First game was against the just tiniest little girl. It was I mean, this she was maybe 6 years old, um, maybe like a small 6 year old. Um, and you have to like shake hands before the game and after, and it was just like there's like no bones in this child's hand. So I thought, okay, probably this is going to be somebody who doesn't have a lot of patience, um, because this is a huge. I mean, even playing like a half hour long chess game is a lot to ask of a child of that age. But no, I mean, she was so careful, so patient, and managed her time really, really well. As I said, the game went about 3 hours. And yeah, I was just very impressed. There ended up being one. I think overall she was just a little bit. She was too defensive of a player. Um, just needed to play more actively and let me get into a position where I put enough pressure that um, the queen side pawns structure just fell apart. But it took a long time. It took a lot of effort to get there, and yeah, I was very impressed. Did not say a word the whole time. After the game, I was like, hey, you did a really good job. Her mom was there, and I was like, hey, she played really well. I don't know. Didn't seem also perturbed really at all about anything. It seemed very like she was just having a good time, just being there. So that's great. Good for her. And yeah, I hope she does continues to do well. Um, Yeah, the games were very annoyingly timed today. First one was at 11, so I was playing from like 11 to 2 or so. So kind of right in all of the times when you would want to have lunch. So I had a late lunch, and then the second game was at 6. So right when it's kind of exactly when you would want to have dinner. Um, and if you already had a late lunch. So anyway, just had a snack. Um, before the game and during it, but I was very hungry by the time it ended at 9:15 or so. Um, this one was against another adult, and for whatever reason, I'm really getting into these long, intense games. Both of these, by the time the games were finishing, pretty much everyone else in the section was done. When you're done with your game, there's a big sheet in the main hall that you go to and you write down the results. And both of these is like the second or third to last game to finish. Um, Part of that is playing the London, which a wise man told me that if you play the London, you're going to get a full game every time. And in fact, the in the second game, which is the one that I'm going to go over, um, I was playing black, but my opponent played the London there as well. So it was two very long London games. Um, Yeah, this one was I was sitting right next to the very dapper child who you remember from day one, who is now wearing more of a. I guess he has like a full closet of tailored suits because he was wearing a different like a brown tailored suit. Um, I don't know. I mean, the kid's got better grip than I have, I think, ever had. Um, and but yeah, so I was a little worried that I was not going to even be able to play this game because this is the first game where I sat down, set up the board. Uh, my opponent just not there. He was just not there. They're saying start the clocks. I start the clock. He's not there, and thankfully he showed up about 3 minutes after I started the clock. Um, but I was definitely starting to worry. If your opponent doesn't show up, you have to wait an entire hour before you are allowed to claim the forfeit. So you just have to sit there for an hour and watch the other games. But pretty lame situation. Yeah, this game was as I said, it was not perfectly played, but I felt like it required a lot of precision. Um, and and I felt like it was really a complete game where from start to finish, I was playing it quite precisely for my level. Um, what were the other things? Oh yeah, I mean there was so much drama at I realized I forgot in the first recap to even mention, but there's so much drama at all of these games. These poor tournament directors who are like the volunteers. They're just dealing with so much. I mean, during our first game, there was a guy complaining loudly to them about like, oh, he got up during his turn and he went to the bathroom, and he's saying this about like a 3 foot tall, child. He's like, they're not allowed to get up and go to the bathroom. And General Director's like, well, actually, they are. Um, and some of the other people who were still playing their games in the hall had to be like, hello, shut up. What are you doing? Um, yeah, in the second game, there was some kind of dispute about what the position was on another board on my table. And so a tournament director had to come over, and there was like a long conversation about it was when my opponent was thinking about his move, so I was, taking a break from calculating. Um, and so I heard a lot of like, well, this witness claims that this was the position on the board, and this, it's like a whole like courtroom procedure. And then this poor kid just like burst into tears and was just crying. That like kid sobbing where you're just like gasping for air. It was rough. Um, it was rough. But anyway, um, let's talk about the game. So this, as I said, it was a London. Um, and I'm playing my usual King's Indian setup here. Everything was normal until E4, and this was the first time when I was like, okay, I mean, that's definitely wrong. Um, you don't generally want to move pawn twice in the opening because you just move it once. And here it's really not necessary because, I mean, if you wanted to play E4, nothing is even threatening the bishop, so there's no need to do this. You're just losing tempo. So I was quite glad to see this, and I thought for a while about. Um, it seemed to me from principles, the most principled move here is c5, and I think the engine actually gives that as one of the top two moves, um, because whenever a piece moves, you have to look at what was that piece defending, right? That's the other reason why e4 seems a little suspicious, is it's holding up the position, and now it isn't. So, immediately striking at this pawn, which is weakened, um, seemed like the right thing to do from principles, but there's a lot of kind of trickiness in here. Now the queens are looking at each other, but you don't want to capture and give your opponent the open file. Um, you can go after this pawn here. And I think, yeah, I mean, I think this doesn't work, obviously. Um, this pawn seems a bit loose, but it's just kind of it is well protected here. So and this pawn feels a bit like I kind of wish it was back here to prevent infiltration from the knight. Um, yeah, the engine says that that is, as I said, is one of the two best moves. But I was happy to see that the other best move is the move that I played, which is often played in these positions. Um, Putting the knight here so that it can support flexibly pushing either at e5 or c5. He now plays e5, which, yeah, I was calculating a bunch of lines for this because that's kind of the that's sort of the obvious follow-up. Here the engine says that you need to go over here, but anyway, we'll look at the engine line as before after looking at the actual game. I'm sorry, I did not see this as a possibility. Did not look at that move. The idea being that the bishop is kind of trapped in here now. Um, but yeah, I just captured and then I captured with the knight. Um, and here I felt like it's good for me to. This is a very active knight. I need to get this knight off the square so that the bishop can get developed. So I'm happy to trade here. And then I like this move. This was, I think, the top engine move also. C6, a lovely kind of patient move here. Um, I'm really trying to play uh, understanding when you need to look at your opponent's plans versus when you need to look at your plans, and which one to prioritize at the moment is tricky. So I was happy to see that this was kind of the right idea here. You really need to prevent the knight from doing any mischief over here. If it gets in over here, especially as I was looking at some stuff, if you play something like this, it does cover here, but then if you let it get in here, now, this is kind of annoying. Oops. You can play this, but now this just seemed uncomfortable and bad for me, right? I mean, this is not a good pawn structure. This may be okay because you're clearing the way for the rook, but um, yeah, I didn't really like the look of that. And I preferred, it's also kind of an easy. It makes calculation a little bit easier because you're just like, okay, well, now there aren't these kind of nasty looking moves. The bishop is prevented from coming in here as well. Um, so I was happy with that move. Queen d2, knight d5, I thought was an interesting idea. Um, I think the engine is not super happy about it, but um, the idea I had here is um, if I can trade off these bishops and trade off these knights and get my queen here, then my queen is just in a really nice dominating position. Um, Thing is that the knight doesn't have to take here, but um, yeah, we'll kind of see how it shook out in the game. We trade the dark square bishops and queenside castle. Mixed feelings about this because, as I mentioned in the previous game, these opposite side castle games are very sharp. Um, they're often, both players are one or two moves away from checkmate for a long time. Um, but on the other hand, I can remove this key defender of the position I feel like I'm faster on the attack um, than he is. And I try to get that attack going immediately with B5. Um, the idea being, yeah, I mean, straightforwardly, you just want to push here, and then you want to take this at some opportune moment and uh, I mean, ideally, you sort of get this lined up and, you know, have all of these pieces coordinating in the attack. Um, Here, I think this was the first big mistake, medium-sized mistake that he made. This is not like a decisive advantage for me, but this makes the position much more comfortable for me than it is for him. I mean, this is, you know, uh, if you're familiar with chess theory, um, centralizing queens is a big theme. Queens kind of want to be in the center because they can move in every direction, right? So being in the center means that they're controlling um, a huge number of squares. Um, and of course, that's true of other pieces as well, but uh, it's true to an even greater extent for the queen because it can move so many different places. Here, especially, what is really nice for me is, you know, I'm putting pressure on this pawn on the queen side. Um, I'm putting pressure here, which means that it's difficult to develop these pieces. If the bishop moves, obviously, you can just take this uh, in some positions. We'll see how that kind of shook out. Also, that became a question later on in the game. But yeah, so I was quite happy about that. And it seems I've accidentally gone back here. Okay. Where were we? Here. B3 is, yep, just defends this. Um, Bishop B6. In the future, I'm basically trying to break up this pawn chain and then, smash on through with the queen and just, checkmate. H4, that seemed like the logical move to me. You kind of have to, like in all these opposite side castle positions, you have to get your own attack started. I responded with A5, which was a mistake. um, that's a little too hasty. The best thing to do, which I regretted not doing the game, is H5 because now white has nothing. Because this pawn is pinned, right? You can't move it. They can't undermine this. And so there's really nothing like this just stops their attack cold. And then you have time to push. But I went with A5 instead, which allows things to get a little hairy. And I was very glad to see C4 that he played next because I was thinking about all of these. I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff. I was thinking, okay, can I just push here? But it gets bad fast. Like you can get checkmated very easily, right? Um, yeah, he, I think, I think there are defenses against all this, right? But I felt like I was glad to see C4 because it's, it's not putting as much pressure on me, um, and it's sort of moving to the defense when I think again, it's this defense versus offense question where it's very difficult to tell what the best thing is. But to me, it felt like the right thing for him to do was to push um, at that moment. So we have this exchange, and now we have um, this crazy situation. The engine, I kind of suspected at the time that the engine would just say, like, YOLO, just go for this. Um, but you play this, and it's doesn't eh, opening this up does not feel great. Like this is I mean, this looks bad. Um, again, like technically it's okay. Um, you can defend against it because your queen is here and it's sort of holding things together. Um, but and you can even get the bishop in here to hold things together, but it felt like that's taking things a bit too far. And that I needed to play defense here a little bit. And so I went to F5 to keep an eye here and put pressure here. And I was looking at all sorts of crazy variations, like, you know, I kind of expected him to go after the queen with the bishop. And, um, again, I'm still keeping an eye on this. Now I'm attacking this again. And that there would be some sort of like, okay, now maybe we're back here. Now I was thinking about this, and I realized that whoops, that's actually a blunder because now you got this, and I think I think you can hold on to this bishop. Maybe not actually. Um, yeah, this might actually be a poison pawn here. Um, but yeah, I did not see this is exactly. I just saw it like okay, no, this is a skewer and it wins a pawn, and I didn't realize actually this leads to the bishop being lost because there's no. I mean, if you could put a rook here, you'd be fine. Um, but yeah, so I was kind of like, I mean, how do I handle? Am I going to have to kind of dance um, the with the bishop and the queen around a bunch? For that, I was thinking like, oh, you know what? He actually can't go back here because now this is continuity. Continuity, one of the most difficult concepts to uh, understand in chess or to consistently use correctly, um, your brain thinks, okay, I don't have to worry about this pawn because it's protected by both the rook and the queen, and you're dancing around with the bishop, and then you forget that nope, it's actually not defended anymore. And in fact, as you saw, that became a very relevant thought because here this is the big blunder of the game for him, just forgetting that this is no longer defended. And here, yeah, he's in a lot of trouble. Um, he plays Queen G5, I think, just basically going for counterplay, going for, an attack here. Uh, I think the engine comes up with some way of. I looked for a while, for about as long as I could, at like, is there anything kind of useful I can do with the checks here? And I think when we look at the engine line, it will find something, but I didn't. To me, it looked like, um, okay, now your queen is just trapped on the other side of the board, and what are you doing? How are you going to get this out and back into the game? Um, again, yeah, here it's so funny, looking at it after the fact. Here, and what I completely missed in this calculation was this bishop is defending here, so actually, you're you're in a lot of trouble here. I mean, you have to bring the king out to here to avoid losing the bishop, and then you can get hit by this, and this is completely losing. um, well, no, you can't do that, but this is not where you want your king to be. um, yeah, but at the moment, what I missed was that actually you can get the queen out here. And I thought, okay, that's kind of annoying that the queen can't harass the king, even though the king's so open. So instead, I just pulled it back, and I thought, okay, if we trade, and I actually thought here, as absurd as it looks, I think bringing the king out um, is actually the right move rather than doubling the pawns. Um, because I mean, you can't really attack it. I mean, here, yeah, I mean, I can just pull it back or whatever, but I'm up a pawn here. It's not decisively winning, but the opponent's king is also very weak. Um, you know, idea, not that these would be the exact moves, but this king's wide open. So it's not just a pawn up. It's a pretty decisive advantage. It looked like to me. Um, Here you played bishop e4, which was a bit of a mystery to me. Um, I just accepted the queen trade. Here, I think the queen trade is even better because now this pawn structure is weak. And but to demonstrate, I mean, the hazards of playing practically, um, I was very close to uh, just because here I was looking at different moves, like for example, something like this. Um, I was looking at like, okay, well, I want to play c5 at my earliest convenience to get it on a dark square so that the light square bishop can't harass it. Um, and here I was very close to playing this, which of course is, or sorry, not here, but after the queen trade, I was very close to playing this, which, uh, yeah, that would lose the game. So maybe that was the reason for this move is to just kind of set a little trap. Um, but yeah, instead, this is totally fine. He played rook h6, and I kind of had to think for a little while to see like what are you even doing there? Like this is nothing. And then I realized, oh, okay, we're coming down here, and then we're looking to mate on on h7. Um, And I was like, okay, but I mean, I can just do this. And I mean, this is the sort of thing where you check over and over because like this is so close to working, right? Like all of this stuff, but it's just not. You always have just enough to defend it. So I was like, all right. I mean, I don't think you can do anything with this attack, so I'm just going to push c5. We brought the rook in, brought the rook to defend. F4, again, I was expecting, I mean, that's kind of the only plan is to go over here. But even then, just take this and here, 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 here. It just doesn't like there's nothing you can do. This pawn is not useful in the attack. Um, so I played c4. Here he surprised me again, and kind of I was a little bit relieved. um, Playing b7 or bishop b7, because this to me told me okay, he doesn't believe in this attack either. Like he doesn't think that this is anything, because this is I mean this is kind of a wishful thinking move, right? Like sure you're attacking the rook, but there's no follow up behind it. I'm just playing rook c7. Um, Bishop e6, and then I can play this nice move, capturing with check. Um, Here I looked at, so I mean, first of all, just to step back, here I'm like, okay, I'm definitely winning here. Um, but I'm going into kind of like, how do I make this as practically simple as possible? Because we're about 5 hours of chess deep into the day, and I'm just like, we got to figure out a way that's simple to do this. Um, this is, I think, the most. accurate move. Um, and yeah, and then I think you just take the pawn. And there may be something better, but I think you just take the pawn. Um, and this happens, then this happens, and you know, you're just up three pawns. And yeah, there's nothing to do here. Um, I think I'm not sure. I think I did look at that for a little bit. I was also a little bit low on time. I was just about at like 2 minutes per move for the rest of the remaining 12 moves I had. I think I maybe had like 21 minutes here. And so I was kind of like, all right, I mean, the simplest thing to do is just take another pawn. Um, and I don't see anything wrong with that, so we'll just do that. Rook D1 again was like, okay, you're sort of abandoning this attack. So that's good. Um, and here I think the engine already wants me to play this to check the king and force it over here. Oops. But here I saw a nice way to simplify, force simplification. Play bishop c4, which, the bishop all the way over here is trapped, basically. You have to take. And then I'm here, and I'm already pressuring this pawn, which is really nice. I'm kind of saying, oh, you know what? Actually, think I notated this wrong. Um, well, anyway, yeah, this should be actually rook b1. But it doesn't matter that much in the end. The only thing is, I was basically, allowing him to capture either of these pawns, and then I just capture this. Um, but again, all about like simplification at this point. I play g3 here. I was like, okay, now that there isn't this pressure down h file, now I can check here, and I was unhappy to discover that there is no forced mate. I mean, if he is foolish enough to play this, then it is mate. But if he plays this, then it seems like there might be, but the king is always getting away. Um, so yeah, if he played this, I was just going to play this, and then just take this, and he would take this, and we'd be on our way to there's still some complications in this end game. And in fact, even when I'm looking at this, I mean, you can't take this because then I promote. Um, so yeah, it's likely to play this instead here, because then it's not made in that position. But instead he played A1, which to me I was like, okay, little moment of relief here because now I can. It's not the most accurate move theoretically, but practically, this is very nice. It forces this exchange. Um, and now my plan is very, very simple. It's take all the pawns, um, and and just push. Use this pawn as a decoy. The king's gonna have to take a bunch of time to take it, and in that time, I'm going to be able to push my kingside pawns up. He played Rook H2, which, in general, these moves are kind of like this is the sort of position that's impossible to play for white. So it's like I don't think there's really much logic to this move, but there's nothing really to play. Capture this, and here I was like, okay, now I actually can relax because I was very happy to see like, okay, I can force the exchange of the last rooks, and once the last rooks are off, there's no way to lose this or even really draw it practically, because you can just check, force the exchange, And then yeah, just I mean, again, this is not the perfect way to convert this, but you know, this is like there's the only thing you have to look out for here is a stalemate trap, which in fact did happen. Here, I like the geometry of you've just kind of put the king in a little box. Always nice when your opponent just has one legal move. They can only move back and forth. It's very easy to just, but even here, this is after about 3 hours, 15 minutes of playing. You can spoil this by stalemating. This is stalemate. But luckily, I still had enough of my wits about me to not do that. So, yeah, this was just like again, like I felt like not everything was ideal, but I felt like this was very much about as well as I can play, and so a really interesting um, game. Um, and we were very excited. It was nice to kind of chat it afterwards and analyze it and stuff. And we agreed that it was a very fun and interesting game. If we look at the kind of spoiler um, engine analysis here, um, like I said, I was kind of happy to see that it validated my belief that these are the two best moves. Um, and then here, I just missed this idea of rotating the knight out. Um, and this is more of a human, like simplifying move. Uh, here, yeah, I mean, it's one of the top engine moves is C6. Um, yeah, the engine doesn't like this, as I mentioned. But then there's this kind of major positional error, allowing my queen to centralize. And yeah, here, as I mentioned, H5 is really the best move, but A5 is not bad. Um, and here again, yeah, he needs to push. This is not the time to be uh, defending. You need to put pressure because if you clear out the H file, you are checkmating black. So yes, and here's when I talked about the engine is just totally unafraid to take that. Um, this is also fine though. Um, and then yeah, we have this. This is kind of the major blunder of the game, losing the pawn. And then, of course, yes, the engine is clever enough to see that, um, this is, yeah, I'm not even sure what I didn't look through this whole line, but yeah, that's pretty bad. I mean, the king just is absolutely undefended. There's nothing here. Um, a rook, if you're sitting with your king and you only have a rook to defend it, uh, and your opponent has a full set of pawns in a nice defensive structure, that's real bad. So yeah, queen f6 not ideal. Um, and then here, yeah, here it's just like you gotta get in here and just take everything and be brutal. Um, but yeah, I did not. It was just yeah, this attack is just so it's you can't practically well, some people can practically calculate all variations. I cannot. So I'm looking for ways to have a simpler but still winning position. Um, this is interesting that it thinks this is losing. I guess being able to have that extra tempo to get the king over here kind of glues everything together. Um, but yeah, this going for this H file idea just is not the right idea. Um, and then yeah, allowing C4. Um, as I said, yeah, here the infiltration on the second rank is the best idea, but this is also fine. Um, and I it put this in moving incorrectly here as well, but that's okay. Um, yeah, we have this exchange, and then yeah, I don't think there's really anything else of interest here. Um, it's just clearly winning from here on out. So I mean, as you can see, it's there's really not a lot of big big mistakes here, um, which is very hard to do. So yeah, two wins today. Can't ask for more than that. And uh, so yeah, it's 3.5 out of 5 now. Last two rounds are tomorrow, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'll be playing some of the better people in the section because of these results, so it's gonna be a challenge. But yeah, we'll see.